14 days past the month of March. Good afternoon and welcome to KBC Lunchtime News on a day that over 800,000 candidates are sitting for their Kenya Certificate of Secondary Examination starting today. We have that plus much more. Welcome. Thank you indeed for making time. My name is Njue. And Anwangeshi will be our sign language interpreter for this live newscast. Of course, you can be part of this broadcast via all our social media spaces as we are live. And straight to the news, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has once again warned candidates and examiners, against exam malpractices as the 2021 Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education examination kicked off this morning across the country. Speaking in Mombasa, where he supervised the first day of the KCSE examination papers distribution and monitoring exercise, Magoha said those found culpable will be dealt with according to the law. These are two students in Nairobi were nabbed with cell phones. Our reporter Njue Karisa with more details.
Two students from Nairobi were this morning nabbed with cell phones as over 850,000 candidates kicked off their KCSE examinations on Monday morning. Speaking when he supervised the commencement of the national examination in Mombasa, Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha says his ministry will show no mercy to the parents and teachers allegedly engaging in any form of examination malpractices.
So the children are not guilty. The guilty are the parents, and the more guilty are the teachers, some of whom are basically just traders and crooks. We dismantled one of their cartels in primary schools, having arrested several of them. We have noticed that they have formed another one. But I want to once again just warn that any teacher who feels he or she is brave enough to open, particularly the second paper, we shall know where you have done it and we shall come for you, just like we did in Njue and just like we did in Tanzania and other places.
Magoha cautioned examiners against attempting to leak the exams, vowing stand against such elements as he affirmed to deliver a credible examination.
A teacher who steals exams cannot be intelligent. He must be very stupid. Because a teacher who steals exams, a normal teacher should basically identify whether or not his or her children are ready and according to the various levels.
Magoha also said 10 choppers are on standby to transport exams to hardship-struck areas as the multi-agency task force reaffirmed of heightened security in clash-prone areas.
One of them has just been called to duty right now for a technical reason where an exam has to be delivered to one part of Kajiado, which is remote. And if we are going to follow the normal channel, the exam may not be there on time. We also have Lamu here if there is need for us to deliver exams by chopper or some parts of Turkana, Northeastern. The government is ready and willing.
Meanwhile, over 4,000 CBC junior secondary school classrooms have been fully constructed as the Magoha leadership works round the clock to beat the July deadline that should deliver 6,447 classes.
I'm hoping that by the first week of April we shall have completed phase 1. But then we shall start to mark the exams. And we don't want, that's a very dangerous time where people can come and trade in the school. So the people must actually go away. As soon as the results are out, we shall start the phase 2 because the money is there. And it will be lighter because we already have the contractor.
Underscoring the meaningful strides made to realize CBC, DCS urged the incoming government not to take away the gains made to streamline the education sector. Njue Karisa from Mombasa County.
And still on the KCSE, the Ministry of Education has tasked center managers to confiscate mobile phones from candidates sitting for the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education 2021 examinations in their areas of jurisdiction. Speaking while opening exams container for Starehe Sub-County in Nairobi, the Chief Executive Officer of the Kenya National Examinations Council, David Njagere, said They are on high alert to ensure no candidate has an advantage over others. Ruth Wamboi reports.
Day one of KCSE examinations at the Starehe Boys Center in Nairobi. Kenya National Examination Council CEO David Njue said there are 483 containers across the country.
As soon as the exam materials enter the school, the gates should remain open throughout until the exams are over. And number two, the second session paper, and as you have known, this is the paper that has been giving us a lot of problems. That second session paper must be inside the exam room throughout, where everyone can see, including the candidates, that nothing is happening to that second session paper.
In Narok County, the container was officially opened by Narok County Commissioner Evans Achoki, who said a total of 10,892 candidates are sitting for the exam in the county.
Wakenya hawatakuwa wanakubalika kuingia kwa examination centers. Wale wakenya wote ambao hawastahili. Only those visitors ambao wanakuja officially to monitor the exam. Na wengi wao watakuwa na badges.
In Migori County, the county commissioner Mwangi Meru has said that the county has beefed up security.
We have properly arranged and briefed the center managers. We have also done briefing to the principals, and we are ready even with the security agencies so that we own up the process.
I have to call you. Just move closer.
In Kisumu County, a total of 23,466 candidates are writing the national exams in 233 centers.
We have made adequate security arrangements. We have also followed all the protocols and the guidelines that have been provided by NEC. So far, so good.
Elsewhere in Mandera County, the government has deployed choppers to deliver KCSE papers to far-flung centers along the Kenya-Somali border.
The government has really put in place a lot of strategies to ensure that this exam is undertaken smoothly, without any hindrances. And that's why we have a standby chopper, in order to ensure that all those far-flung areas where we feel that there could be issues, that the exam is being flown on a daily basis.
And security agencies and education officers in Embu County are investigating the reason behind 146 pupils' failure to sit their KCPE as the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education begins.
Kutoka mashinani, tuko na kamati za usalama ambaye zinaangalia kama kuna mtoto yote anakataa kwenda shule kwa sababu ya miraa ama kwenda kurokota mchanga, atachukuliwa hatua.
Tukaweza kuwasiliana pia kule mat agency hapa ndele Kirinyaga, wakafuatilia.
Ruth Wamboi for Lunchtime News.
And we do wish all the candidates all the best in their examinations. And from that, let's now cross over to the Pan-Afric Hotel here in the county of Nairobi, where the Chief Justice Martha Koome is currently addressing those who have attended the launch of the Environment and Land Court Users Committee. Let's listen in first.
Natural for us, of course, to expect justice and also to expect that if you buy land, your land will not be taken away. This is a legitimate expectation that, the state, and the state is us. We in the judiciary, in the Lands Office, in the Ministry of Environment, will ensure that we safely ensure that people can be protected, their rights can be protected, including their economic and social rights. This is the reason that the Constitution of Kenya places a premium on the fundamental rights, the Bill of Rights, and the duty vested on us state actors to provide clear parameters for interaction, including directions for transformation of our institutions so that we can deepen our democracy. We can combat this exclusion and inequality and protect the vulnerable in our society so that even if somebody has got just their 1/8 of a piece of land, they can rest assured that they will never lose that property because it will be safe and protected in our system. And if they have any dispute, they can resolve it through our multi-door approach. It's called an ex-mediation, or they can go to the court and it can be resolved expeditiously. So all of us are called to work together, state and non-state actors, to pursue this social transformation agenda. And that is why we encourage a very robust court user committee, because they are truly our watchdogs. They give us feedback. They encourage us, like you are encouraging us today, to keep moving on. The Environment and Land Court plays a very, very critical role in realizing the social transformation agenda by determining the disputes that relate to land and environment. And CS, you are not the only one who is puzzled by the land grabbers and their ingenuity. How somebody can take, the cemetery. They have also taken the courts. They have taken the courts where the court is built, and they come with gusto and say, I am before the temple of justice to seek an order that this land where this court is private land. I'm like, but you have taken the temple itself now, where are you going? When you have taken the temple now, what are we going to do? So where we are reached with this menace, I think we had to do something, and we should have no apologies at all that we must engage in these reforms that bring sanity in our society, respect for the rule of law.
Is Chief Justice Martha Karambu Kome all the way at the Pan-African Hotel, where the national launch of the Environment and Land Court Users Committee, she has been able to touch on the Ministry of Land reforms underway, as well as the Environment and Land Courts, and also talked about embracing and encouraging court-annexed mediation as a way of avoiding the court process when it comes to matters land. I have been keeping an eye on that story, more on our subsequent bulletin. But before we do proceed with our news, let's first of all revisit education matters. The Kenya Defence Forces officers have been enlisted by the Ministry of Education to escort examination papers in areas that are experiencing security challenges in Lamu County. Coast Regional Commissioner John Elungata said the move is part of the multi-agency approach the government has employed to ensure security and integrity of examinations, as well as the security of candidates and examination officials.
Coast Regional Commissioner John Elungata, who witnessed the distribution of the KCSE exam papers at the Malindi Deputy County Commissioner's office Monday morning, said all examination centers in the region are safe.
We all want to see that the exam retains its integrity. That was set when we started this multi-agency activity.
In parts of Lamu County, however, police and examination officials will be accompanied by KDF officers while delivering exam papers.
Especially Lamu East, KDF is giving us support, is supporting our police officers and ourselves and to deliver the exams and to ensure that the exams is actually administered and is returned to the containers.
So far, no reports regarding examination and candidate safety have been received.
We will be able to assess as the day goes by, but we are confident that with the plans that are in place, the exam will be administered to the very end without any hitch.
A total of 52,015 candidates are sitting the 2021 KCSE examinations in all the 6 counties within the Coast region, out of which 25,864 are girls and 26,151 are boys. Kamchemenza for Lunchtime News.
And from the coast, we come back to Nairobi, and to be more specific, at the KICC, where, of course, Fred Matiang'i, the Cabinet Secretary for Internal Security, is leading the launch of the annual NGO sector report of the year 2020-2021. Let's listen in.
Judicially, we are clear.
They are conduits for illicit funds and illicit resources that are going into radicalization and recruitment for terrorism. So you will allow us to be a bit strict and do the right thing. Because as we say on one hand that we want to support you and do everything that you want done, we must also agree on the other that we also have to be obedient to the law and we must comply. And I want the board to understand this. Let us give each other another 90 days. Because these people have records, they have filed documents, they have records. When you leave here this week, write to them, call them, especially those who don't comply, and tell them, good people, let us comply, let's follow the law. And after 90 days, those who will not have complied, we will assume they do not actually need to operate as NGOs because they are not interested. Because if you are interested in operating, then you should also be interested in complying. And there are provisions where if you have certain challenges to your compliance, you can go to these wonderful people here before me, the board, and present yourself to them and tell them, good people, I have challenges to comply with ABCD. Allow me 1 more year before I go ahead. And I also want to ask the board that for those organizations that come to you to seek a moratorium, as long as they present reasonable cases, please give them that moratorium. We don't want to be unreasonable and hurt anyone out. But those that don't turn up to seek a moratorium, those that apply and disappear, and those that register and their records are not known, my friends, we also have a responsibility to our population. Because if tomorrow we look around documents and investigation and discover that we registered institutions that were finally abused by terror organizations because we were not careful in doing our work, we will also answer to the people of Kenya. So, my brothers and sisters, everyone is welcome, but please arrive decently. The sense that arrive with a sense of compliance in the things that you're supposed to do. Please welcome all this party. All are welcome, but arrive dressed decently. That is it. Arrive with a measure of compliance. Because if you don't, then allow us also to help you to manage yourself better, as it were. So that then we are able to keep an orderly sector, an effective environment, and a wonderful country. I'll make 2 last points on this before I complete.
That has been Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i live from the KICC, where he is officiating the launch of the annual NGO sector report for the financial year 2020-2021. I've been able to pick up a few points. Is that the NGO board to observe compliance for organizations seeking registration, and he has reiterated that the government will be firm and a little bit strict for all NGOs in order to ensure that they are in full compliance and observe the law. More in our subsequent bulletin. Away from that, places of worship will now resume their full capacity, with all elderly and the vulnerable encouraged to physically attend worship in new guidelines of the phased reopening of places of worship. The Interfaith Council for National Response to the Coronavirus Pandemic has further lifted limitations of attendance and timings in funerals and weddings, while advising Kenyans to continue wearing masks while observing all measures of hygiene in places of worship. Pute himself has that report.
In March 2020, the government suspended all public gatherings and religious meetings as the Minister of Health embarked on a journey to trace contacts of the first case of the deadly COVID-19 disease, the then coronavirus that had just been confirmed in the country. As the cases went down and the new ways to fight the disease like vaccines were invented, so was the National Emergency Response Committee, which included the Interfaith Council for National Response to the Coronavirus Pandemic, was expected to review the measures in a journey to return operations back to normal. The gradual reopening of places of worship began in July last year when President Uhuru Kenyatta partially lifted some restrictions imposed on places of worship. 2 years into the pandemic, the religious leaders say that God has finally answered their prayers.
We sincerely thank all the religious leaders who have relentlessly abided by the guidelines in the places of worship and taken the front line in educating and encouraging the citizens on the need to live up to the various guidelines. We therefore now advise that the places of worship can resume full capacity according to the phase 4 of the guidelines of phased reopening of places of worship.
The Interfaith Council for National Response to the Coronavirus Pandemic has further lifted limitations of attendance and timing in funerals and weddings, but advising that people should not lower their guards yet as the danger still hung on.
The time limits for the services is also lifted. All elderly and vulnerable can now attend the worship. We commend at the same time that it would be highly advisable that they be vaccinated. We continue to be concerned about the political gatherings that have totally ignored any measures of protection and the manner of crisscrossing of our nation.
However, no proof of vaccination will be required before one is allowed to enter any place of worship.
We still advise that all must continue wearing masks in the places of worship. We will continue to observe all measures of hygiene by washing hands or sanitizing before and after the worship services, as well as in all moments where handling shared items.
The announcement comes barely a week after the government lifted the mandatory wearing of face masks in open places, even as it further eased the COVID-19 restrictions after the country maintained a low positivity rate.
We are encouraged by the uptake of vaccination and encourage as many Kenyans as possible to receive the jab.
Purity Museo, Lunchtime News.
Back to education matters. Education stakeholders have warned politicians against interfering with the implementation of the competency-based curriculum. Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development Director Professor Charles Ongondo says political leaders must rally Kenyans behind the curriculum because of its ability to build a strong education foundation. Ongondo's sentiments were echoed by Kaimosi University CEO Professor Jack Nandi, who said CBC is engineered to transform a child into a better person.
There is something for every child. And so we can run away with the non-traditional areas of academics that we know is coming with CBC.
Is there in that area of what? Constructivism. To construct the African child without any interference, without any political interference. We refuse to politicize education in Kenya. We don't want to politicize education in Kenya as a university.
Remember, when you make those careless statements, you are speaking to more than 8.3 million children in Kenya who have already embraced this system. And I want to say, any Kenyan with a good understanding should know that a politician who can sit or stand or wherever and make such a reckless statement, that's a dangerous person.
5 minutes past the hour. We are due for our first break, but before we do that, allow me to appreciate ZB. All the best to Our Lady of Victory Girls High School. We have Mwendwa Dennis Musumbi following from Machakos. Enos Omodhi, always a pleasure watching KBC News from the CBD. Solomon Gadaka, I'm right here with you. Brian Ndote says, locked in from Migori, wishing all the best St. Bernard Warisia Mixed Secondary School. They keep coming and keep them coming. I'll be sampling some of them before the tail end of this live newscast. Let's have that breakfast.
In the future, we've got to stick together and live a better life.
Minky and I are already divorced. She has nothing to do with me anymore. I only have one son right now, and he's Sean. I don't know why you're being so stubborn.
Are you with Pinky right now?
Listen, I'll talk with you later. I gotta go.
Helen, congratulations. You look amazing today. I'm sorry. The bridegroom may be a bit late.
It's okay. He must be on the way.
Jack, be careful! Pinky doesn't know how to swim!
Jack,
hurry and save her!
Experience a new history and setting of new records in Stark Arena from the 18th to 20th of March 2022 at the World Athletics Indo Championships.
Pretty tight out of the blocks, and Coleman now moving away. Christian Coleman challenged late there by Bromell.
More than 1,000 of the world's best athletes will compete for 96 medals across 24 finals during the 3 days of competition in Belgrade, Serbia. Kenya has a formidable team of 10 athletes, amongst them Africa's fastest man, Ferdinand Omanyala. It is going to be a blast, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Do you have a new story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
Nyumba umegeuza klabu.
Hasa wewe shida yako ni nini?
Tuambie ulikuwa na shughuli gani usiku mzima? Sijielewi. Nasikia ovyo ovyo tu.
Ni maswali gani kuna muuliza mama pale chini mezani?
Haikuhusu hiyo.
Una vita vikali na bado hujajua kujikinga.
Muda wote huu kwa umekuwa kiniada.
Nihusu mimi. I don't care. I don't care.
Welcome back to KBC Lunchtime News. We are glad you are watching. Let's now shift focus to matters politics, where a section of Jubilee Party leaders and supporters in Kajiado County have intensified campaigns in the vast county in a bid to rejuvenate the party ahead of the general polls. In a series of rallies led by Governor Joseph Olelenku, they vowed to reclaim the party's glory in the county ahead of August polls.
Jubilee Party leaders in Kajiado County have embarked on campaigns in the vast county in a move to rejuvenate the party ahead of the August polls. In a series of rallies led by Governor Joseph Olelenku in Ngong, Matasia and Kitengela towns respectively, leaders have vowed to popularize and reclaim the party's glory in the county ahead of the polls and ensure the party retains all the positions currently held by the Jubilee Party.
Tunasemaga Masaini, kila mfugaji anajua ng'ombe yake.
na sisi watu wa Jubilee tunajuana sisi kama watu wa Jubilee, lakini tuko na wageni ndani ya nyumba yetu na tunataka nyumba yetu ipanuke tukiwa wengi. Waliokuwa wakisema Jubilee imekufa, akiwemo aliyekuwa gavana wa kwanza wa Kajiado, nimeona juzi miguu yake miwili amejipeleka wapi? Mmemwona akienda Jubilee, tunamkaribisha, anakaribia, lakini kuna wenyewe ama hakuna wenyewe.
Governor Lenku maintained Jubilee tickets belong to the party loyalists and not to the opportunistic politicians known for party hopping. The leaders urged the electorate to support Raila Odinga's presidency under the Azimio ticket.
Kazi endelee. Kazi endelee. Na mnajua tumeambiwa na rais ili kazi yake iendelee, atakaendeleza kazi ya rais na Raila Amolo Odinga.
Meanwhile, Wajir County gubernatorial hopeful Dr. Hassan Mohammed has urged area residents to elect visionary leaders that have interests of the people at heart. He says if elected governor, he will popularize the livestock sector and fight corruption. Dr. Mohammed said if elected, he will create jobs and attract investors.
The people of Kenya have given Wajir County 100 billion shillings the last 10 years. And there's nothing to show for it. So we must work very hard to provide leadership that uses that money in a manner that is in the interest of the people of Wajir.
He also pledged to prioritize the construction of a modern sewer system, proper waste management systems, and connection of the region to the national electricity grid.
And still on politics, with just 3 weeks to party nominations, supporters of ODM party leader Raila Odinga are now calling for free and fair exercise at the grassroots level. Tension appears to be gradually rising in Migori County, with a section of politicians calling on the ODM party to rein in on the matter. Uriri constituency MP Mark Nyamita, while addressing his constituents during a series of rallies, called on his opponents to sell their political ideologies peacefully and shun the culture of inciting the youth. His sentiments were echoed by one Jared Kwaga, who has also expressed interest in the Uriri parliamentary seat on an ODM ticket.
To the party leader and all the party organs and leadership of also the county, we were promised that the nomination will be free and fair, and we believe it will still be free and fair, and we really don't want to bring unnecessary voter apathy.
Political parties don't matter, our tribes don't matter, any other thing which doesn't matter but the greatness of this nation. Yesterday we saw a historic, has never happened in this country. Well over 21 parties coming together for a greater nation. And I want to tell my party leader, who is also the presidential candidate for Azimio La Umoja ticket, that Baba, we have faith in you, that you will do justice to this country.
Moving on, the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee, IGRCT, has officially launched 2021 valuation exercise across the counties. Speaking during the launch, Ministry of Devolution Principal Secretary and Chairman of the Steering Committee on Valuation, Julius Coril, has assured Kenyans no property will be destroyed during the transition. Coril says the first phase shall run for 21 days between the 14th of March to 2nd of April 2022 and will be done in 26 counties. The PS has also urged cooperation from governors, who he said are key drivers of the process.
Support of the evaluation exercise that we are launching today. We have done the preparatory arrangements. Our technical officers, together with the officers from the State Department of Lands, specifically the Department of Valuation, are already in the field for the first phase of 26 counties that we are undertaking the valuation for the registrable assets of the defunct local authorities and the devolved functions relating to national government.
The exercise that we are here today is about the valuation and the transfer of assets that were owned by the defunct local authorities and also owned by other national entities that have transferred their functions to the county governments. So already, as has been said, identification of those assets had already been done. So we have a register of all those assets, and that is to give assurance to every Kenyan that those assets are not prone to any misuse. Now, what we are doing is an exercise of ascribing value to these assets so that now they can be also recognized in the statements of accounts, so that now the balance sheet by county government is reflecting of the true worth of the assets that they own. So what we are doing is that we already had registered these assets, so they are safe.
Elsewhere, a family in Eldamaravine in Baringo County is in jubilation after reuniting with their lost son 16 years later. The son, who is now 18 years old, is believed to have been abducted when he was 2 years old by an Ugandan lady who later adopted him as his son since she had no child.
Dennis Kiplagat was abducted at a tender age by a Ugandan lady known to him as Justine Chepkure, who later adopted him as a son since she had no child. According to Kiplagat, he was taken to Busoga area in Uganda where he lived with the lady for about 5 years before becoming a laborer at a nearby tea plantation.
Nikakaa na yeye kitangu. Nilikuwa mdogo, sikuwa hata naelewa ni yeye si mama yangu. Tukakaa iko askari ile ilikuwa jirani. Akaniambia siku moja tulikuwa shamba. Akaniambia wewe si mama hakuwa anakusaa wewe alikuibiwa Kipsigis.
However, things changed recently after the lady was involved in an accident and passed on. Relatives of the deceased chased him away from the family in order to stop him from inheriting the wealth of the deceased. Kiplagat was rescued by a village elder who received him and reported the matter to Moise Bridge Police Station.
Mother, he describes the mother as a lady with some growth on her front face, and the father a brown man. From what the young man is telling us, if he was 5 years then, the period must have been around 2008 or 2009.
The parents could not hide their joy as they celebrated the return of their lost son.
Alipotea for 13 years. Na nimepata, ninashukuru Mungu. Niko na furaha. Juu ameniondolea majozi. Mungu ameniondolea majozi tangu siku hiyo mpaka wa leo. Bado ninamshukurikia Mungu.
Frederick Muki for Lunchtime News.
Now do business, and for Nairobians could face higher commodity prices if market players pass on a new cess levy to consumers. The Nairobi Metropolitan Service increased the levy for all commodity prices. Market players are in consultations to review the impact of the new levy on the cost of goods.
Wheat and maize flour prices increase are on the cards at today's millers meeting, with millers protesting the implementation of the new market cess introduced by the Nairobi County government. According to a letter sent to the millers by the Kenya Revenue Authority, a bag of dry cereals including maize, wheat, beans and other cereals will attract a 50 shillings levy. However, the county says the cess payment will be paid by the owner of the cereals and not the miller unless the miller is the owner of the consignment. The new cess will also see green maize levied at 1,000 shillings per ton. Meat products are also expected to increase, as animal traders are now required to pay 100 shillings per cow they deliver to the city abattoirs, 50 shillings per sheep and goat, and 100 shillings per pig. This is on top of a daily 50 shillings traders will be charged to access the city's markets. A select groceries have also been slapped with the new levies, with those selling their produce on cars required to get an annual 15,000 shillings permit. The new market cess comes at a time when Kenyans are reeling from the high cost of living due to an increase of foodstuff prices. Last week, a ton of wheat increased from 45,600 per ton to 57,000 shillings, pushing up the price of wheat flour. The cost of maize flour is also set to increase due to the high cost of fertilizer. The Ministry of Agriculture reckons the fertilizer will cross the 7,000 shillings mark soon if Treasury will not allocate funds for subsidies in the supplementary budget. Benson Njue reporting for Lunchtime News.
The Energy, Petroleum and Regulatory Authority, EPRA, is now engaging with relevant stakeholders to ensure petroleum road transportation-related accidents are minimized. EPRA is in the process of reviewing requirements for petroleum road transportation licenses, tanker permits and driver certificates after weekend's accident involving 2 tankers loaded with export-bound petroleum in Kakamega County.
Many petroleum products are transported on Kenyan roads destined for the local market and the Great Lakes region, including Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, Southern Sudan, Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo and Ethiopia. These products come in through Kenya's largest port, Mombasa, which is one of the regional's gateways. The products are transported through tankers since the Kenya pipeline system capacity is still small. However, the road transport has proven disastrous from time to time, and the government has been criticized for its poor safety standards and inadequate disaster preparation. EPRA is now investigating the root cause of the accident of 2 tankers transporting petroleum that had been duly licensed for transportation of petroleum by road. 1 person died while others were injured in the accident that involved 2 petrol vehicles and a canter lorry at Mukonje Market, Matete Sub-County. The Energy, Petroleum and Regulatory Authority, through a statement, said that plans to incorporate additional safety requirements in transport of petroleum were underway, starting with defensive driving certification for all tanker drivers. The authority further noted that it shall introduce a period conformity assessment of petroleum road tankers, as well as submission of a detailed highway emergency response plan at the time of application for a petroleum road transportation license. The statement noted that EPRA has set up a multi-agency team to develop guidelines that will ensure issuance of special permits to foreign registered petroleum road tankers and drivers while operating in Kenya. Reporting for Lunchtime News, I am Teresa Mutai.
And across the borders, motorists in Zimbabwe are up in arms over the rising operating costs brought about by a record surge in fuel prices. This comes as the war between 2 main exporters of oil, Russia and Ukraine, continues. Here are the details of this and much more from across Africa.
Higher operating costs have forced drivers and motorists in Zimbabwe to raise fares, which are attracting fewer passengers and worsening business situations. Before the fuel increase, the transport charge per person was $3, but now it has doubled to $6 per head. Zimbabwe's Energy Authority has raised the price of fuel by 16 cents, 5 days after another upward review. The 2 rounds of price increases have had an immediate negative impact on transport operators, and the government stated that they will review fuel prices on a weekly basis owing to the global uncertainties. According to the pricing structure, about 40% of the price of fuel in Zimbabwe are tariffs, taxes, duties and levies. Meanwhile, AGDEFCO, the specialist investor in early-stage African agribusinesses, has announced a $90 million packages of new funding from the CDC Group, Norfund and DFC, which will allow it to continue to grow its investment activities in agriculture across sub-Saharan Africa. This is in addition to the announcement of supplementary funding of up to $5.4 million from CDC, Norfund and the UK's Foreign, Commonwealth Health and Development Office for the company's integrated technical assistance facility. It provides investment capital and technical assistance to grow sustainable and impact businesses across the agricultural value chain. This endowment has provided capital to agribusinesses that have directly created or sustained more than 15,000 jobs and to work with 750,000 smallholder farmers to help increase their income and improve their resilience to climate change. Finally, Ethiopian Airlines has signed a strategic partnership agreement to jointly commence Sea Air multimodal transportation with International Djibouti Industrial Park operation and Air Djibouti for expeditious transportation of goods to Africa. The synergy between air and sea transportation is highly instrumental in facilitating trade between Africa and China through the fast and easy movement of cargo. The markets of China and Africa are highly complementary, and partnership has huge potential in facilitating cost and time-efficient logistics solutions for African traders.
And further afield, China's express and the delivery sector is expected to see faster consolidation via mergers and acquisitions that is M&A in the next few years, according to a report by Fitch Ratings. Since 2021, the country has seen a string of M&A deals, including JD Logistics Incorporated and SF Holdings Company Limited, that have reportedly completed acquisitions respectively, the report said. More details in our global business roundup coming up next.
The competition will likely continue to be intense in the medium term, Fitch said, noting that the major operators expand capacity aggressively to achieve economies of scale and higher market shares. Fitch expects consolidation to continue in the next few years, with major operators acquiring smaller peers or even peers of similar size, especially targets with similar business models or where acquisition will yield synergies. According to the State Post Bureau, the total revenue of the express and delivery sector will grow by 11% year-on-year to reach $220 billion this year. Elsewhere, Tesla Chief Executive Officer Elon Musk said on Sunday that the U.S. electric car maker and his rocket company SpaceX are facing significant inflationary pressure in raw materials and logistics. Musk in a tweet also asked about the inflation rate outlook and said his companies are not alone, retweeting an article saying the Ukraine-Russia conflict sent commodity prices to their highest level since 2008. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has been ramping up the prices of metals used in the cars, from aluminium in the bodywork to palladium in catalytic converters to the high-grade nickel in electric vehicle batteries, and drivers are likely to foot the bill. While metals have not been the target of Western sanctions as yet, some shippers and auto parts suppliers are steering clear of Russian goods, putting more pressures on car makers already reeling from a chip of shortage and higher energy prices. Finally, South Korean electric vehicle makers are staking a claim in the global electric market, with Kia revealing plans to add 2 electric pickups to its fleet by 2026, and SsangYong's new owners reported to be fast-tracking an all-electric version of the Muso Ute. Kia said earlier this month that it would add a dedicated electric pickup truck, as well as a strategic model for emerging markets, to a list of 14 BEVs it was now planning to release by 2027 at a rate of at least 2 a year. The updated roadmap, which builds on Kia's planned strategy first announced in 2020, was announced at the car maker's CEO Investor Day in the first week of March. It boosts the pipeline of BEVs from 11 models by 2026 to 14 by 2027, including the 2 electric ones. According to reports citing the South Korean news site, Daily Car SsangYong is already well into the development stage of the electric Muso and could bring it into production as early as next year, potentially beating the Kia electric Utes to the market.
In sports, reigning national champions Sirius men and East Africa champions Nairobi Water currently top the log after the opening fixtures of the Handball Super Cup tournament played at Nyayo National Stadium outdoor court. Sirius bagged maximum points to lead the group Group A with 4 points, while KDF and former champions Black Mamba are placed second and third with no point. High-flying Strathmore University men lead Group B with 3 points ahead of Kenyatta University and GSU, who occupy the second and third positions respectively. Nairobi Water are placed top in the ladies category with 4 points, 2 ahead of second-placed Ulinzi Sharks. Sirius and Nanyuki occupy the third and fourth positions with no points. The tournament signals the start of the new league season. And from handball to martial arts now, where taekwondo stakeholders in the country have urged the government to support, establish and promote the game in public schools so that it can continue to thrive in the country. The stakeholders have emphasized that the game will not affect students' academic performance, despite the fact that the game is not widely distributed in many schools in the country. Many young people have joined the sport as they aim to participate in local and international competitions.
Unapelekana vizuri. Kwa mfano, kwa curriculum ama kwa syllabus yetu ya huu mchezo, uko na kila kitu ambacho kinahitajika kwa CBC. Tukasema kama ni mental, balancing, gymnastics na zoezi za danger awareness ambao iko kwa the Kenyan syllabus ya curriculum. So hata pia tungependa huu mchezo uwekwe kwa hii curriculum tu ya Kenya. ITF.
Being able to meet other golfers and experiencing different golfers and different courses. So it is it's a nice gift, it's a nice prize, it's an ultimate for any golfer.
Elsewhere, the Machakos County Swimming Association has called on the county government to support them financially in a bid to improve the standards of the sport in the area. Kenya Swimming Federation chairperson Machakos branch Peter Mwangangi noted that junior swimmers get demoralized when they lack support and the opportunity to showcase their talents. He said swimmers from the county of Machakos produced a masterclass performance in County Gala meeting held recently at the Kasarani Aquatic Stadium, even though a small number participated.
Fans, so we'd like to appeal the